Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights that matter most to you. Today, we're plunging into a challenge that's become, well, a critical, escalating concern really everywhere: wildfires. As seasons seem to get hotter, drier, more unpredictable, the search for better, faster, more effective solutions is just more urgent than ever. And that brings us right to the core of our deep dive today. There's this piece of legislation, the Emergency Wildfire Fighting Technology Act of 2025, and a really fascinating innovation it aims to evaluate, known as the Container Aerial Firefighting System, or CAFFS, our mission. Let's break down what this bill is about, why it's so vital right now, and, precisely what is CAFFS. We want to cut through the jargon, give you the essential insights. Okay, let's unpack this.
Absolutely. And it's really essential to understand how policy and technological innovation have to work together, especially for something like wildfire management. This isn't just about, another bill. It's potentially a real shift in how we tackle a growing threat. It affects communities, economies, ecosystems. Yeah. It's big.
That's a great way to put it. So let's start with the legislation itself. We're looking at H.R.836, the Emergency Wildfire Fighting Technology Act of 2025. Now, this just passed the House February 5th this year, and it's been referred to the Senate. But it's worth noting, this isn't its first rodeo, so to speak. There was a very similar bill, H.R.836, back in 2023. So clearly, this issue of wildfire tech, it's been on Congress's radar for a bit, shows some persistence there.
Right, it reflects that ongoing urgency.
So what's the main point of this act? Well, at its heart, it's really focused. It's about evaluation. It directs the Secretary of Agriculture, acting through the Forest Service Chief and the Secretary of the Interior, to conduct a thorough evaluation of this Container Aerial Firefighting System, CAFFS.
Not immediate adoption. It's about assessment first. Evidence-based. And this evaluation, it's not just a suggestion. There's a deadline, and it's tight. The Act says it has to be completed, jointly, mind you, by both secretaries, within just 90 days of the Act becoming law. And importantly, they can't just do it in a vacuum. They have to consult with two key bodies, the National Interagency Aviation Committee and the Interagency Air Tanker Board. That collaboration is key. It brings in that frontline aerial firefighting expertise, ensures the evaluation is, grounded and relevant.
Okay, so 90 days for the evaluation, then what? Well, there's another deadline. Within 120 days of enactment, these secretaries have to jointly submit a report, a detailed report on their findings, and that goes to the appropriate committees in Congress. So evaluate, then report. Clear steps.
Right, and appropriate committees, just so you know what that means in this context. In the House, it's the Committees on Agriculture and Natural Resources, and in the Senate, it's Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, and also Energy and Natural Resources. That broad range of committees really highlights that wildfire isn't just, say, a forestry issue. It touches land management, resources, even energy policy. It's interconnected.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the big question then is, why this specific bill right now? What's the urgency? Well, the background info from that earlier 2023 report, which kind of set the stage for this one, makes a compelling case. Simply put, wildfire seasons are getting worse. More severe, longer. You hear about it all the time. And when you're facing that kind of growing threat, firefighting agencies, they need every single tool they can possibly get.
Absolutely. Every available method needs to be on the table to protect people, property, and our natural landscapes.
Just think about the scale we're talking about. For 2023, the Forest Service had, up to 24 air tankers, over 200 helicopters, more than 900 engines on the ground, and aerial drops. They're a massive part of the strategy. Between 2012 and 2019, the USFS dropped something like 102 million gallons of retardant, just on national forest lands.
Huge numbers.
Huge. But here's the catch, the practical challenge this bill is trying to get around. To drop water or retardant like that, the aircraft, whether it's a plane or a helicopter, it almost always has to be specifically built for firefighting. Or it needs major retrofitting, expensive, time-consuming modifications.
And that's a real bottleneck.
It really is. It limits how many aircraft can actually jump into the fight when a big fire breaks out, especially those fast-moving ones that need a massive, quick air response. Imagine leading air support now, but half the available planes can't help because they aren't equipped. That's the problem.
Exactly. And that leads us nicely into the money side of things, the financials. The Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, they estimated the cost for this bill, for implementing this evaluation. And what's interesting is it's actually pretty modest. They estimated a little more than $500,000, which, rounds up to about $1 million for 2024.
So not a huge spending program then?
Not at all. It's a really targeted investment just for this study. And crucially, any spending is subject to the availability of appropriated funds. Congress still has to actually allocate the money. If you look at the CBO's projections, that $1 million figure is consistent for the next 5 years and the next 10 years. And importantly, the CBO found no direct spending increases, no revenue changes, no impact on the deficit, and no unfunded mandates on states or local governments.
Okay, so it's financially straightforward. Just focus on getting this evaluation done.
Precisely. It signals a focus on, evidence first
Yeah.
before potentially larger investments down the line. Strategic thinking.
Okay, so we've got the bill laid out, the why, the what, the timeline. But what about the technology itself? This CAFFS system. This is where it gets, I think, really interesting. CAFFS, Container Aerial Firefighting System. You might also hear it called CDS, Containerized Delivery System. Same thing.
Yeah, so what is, in simple terms, it's basically a method using a boxed delivery system. Instead of spraying liquid directly from a tank on the aircraft, you're dropping disposable containers filled with water or retardant.
Disposable containers.
Okay, that's the key innovation. These containers are just, airdropped. Think of it like dropping supplies, but the supplies are fire suppressant.
And the big advantage there, as the source material points out, is huge. It says, since the water or retardant is dropped via container, rarely, if ever, is outfitting of an aircraft needed.
Exactly. That's the potential game changer. You bypass the need for those purpose-built planes or those complex, expensive modifications we talked about.
Wow, okay, that could have massive implications.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. First, response time. If you don't need to prep a specialized aircraft, you could potentially get suppressants airborne much faster.
Yeah.
Critical in those first few hours of a fire.
Makes sense.
Second, and this is maybe even bigger, it could potentially increase the number of aircraft available. What's really fascinating, what gets people excited about this, is the possibility of using a much wider range of aircraft, potentially even standard military or commercial cargo planes. Planes that are already flying, doing other things.
Without eating major mods.
That's the idea. Without needing those extensive, costly, time-consuming modifications, imagine a big fire emergency. Instead of relying only on your dedicated, limited fleet of air tankers, you could potentially load up a readily available cargo plane with these CAFS containers and have it dropping retardant relatively quickly. That dramatically expands your potential aerial firefighting power and flexibility.
That really does sound like it could change the game. But you mentioned the tech itself isn't brand new.
Right, the concept of containerized drops isn't new. But, and this is the crucial point the bill addresses, it has not been actively studied by the wildland firefighting agencies, specifically for firefighting effectiveness.
Ah, okay. So we know you can drop containers, but do they work well to put out fires?
Precisely. That's the missing piece. And that's why this evaluation is so critical. We do have some prior information. The National Guard Air Force Reserve Command Test Center, they did a report on CAFFS use, and it was generally favorable. But, and this is the key caveat, that report did not specifically test the system's firefighting effectiveness.
So it showed promise for the delivery method, but not necessarily for the end result on the fire itself.
Exactly right. It didn't answer the firefighter's core question. Does this actually help suppress the fire effectively on the ground? That's the knowledge gap this act is designed to fill. It's about moving from looks promising on paper to proven effective in a real wildfire scenario.
Got it. Making sure it actually delivers where it counts.
Before you potentially invest more heavily, you want that solid data on effectiveness and any potential downsides or limitations in that specific context.
Which is why this evaluation, though seemingly small, is so incredibly important. It helps us understand if this really can be a game changer for suppressing wildfires, protecting communities, our resources, all of it, moving from potential to actual proven capability. Okay, so let's quickly sum up the core takeaways for you. We have this bill, the Emergency Wildfire Fighting Technology Act of 2025. It mandates a fast, focused evaluation of this promising tech called CAFS. And CAFS, the Container Aerial Firefighting System, it worked by dropping containers of water or retardant, the big potential upside. It might let us use many more types of aircraft for firefighting without needing costly modifications, possibly slashing response times.
Right. It's not just about a new gadget. It could fundamentally shift how we deploy air power against these increasingly challenging fires. And the governmental evaluation part is key. It ensures we're smart about deploying resources, that we invest in things proven to be effective and safe. This bill is really about a strategic, evidence-based step towards better future wildfire mitigation, building a more resilient system based on what works.
So wrapping up, what does this all mean for you listening in? Well, think about how devastatingly fast a wildfire can move, how quickly it can threaten homes, communities, entire landscapes. Now imagine having the ability to bring more aerial firepower to bear, much faster, using a wider range of planes. Right in those crucial early moments, that's the potential impact here.
It really highlights that constant need for innovation, for finding better ways to adapt as the challenges evolve.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Considering how fires are changing, what other kinds of innovations, maybe beyond aerial tech, do you think we need to explore to better combat these complex events? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you a clearer picture of the specific effort, and we hope you'll continue exploring these critical topics with us.